ABC 10 News at 4 starts now.
25 days until election and another shakeup in the race for president. Why the second debate was just scrapped. A customer's hostile response to a restaurant's mask policy. What happened after he was turned away for refusing to wear one. Plus, December nights lives on this year, but it will look very different. Good afternoon. Just in the last 30 minutes, we learned the second presidential debate has officially been canceled after President Trump refused to participate in that virtual format. I'm Steve Atkinson in for Kimberly Hunt. President Trump is vowing to get back on the campaign trail, but his health is still in question. ABC's Elizabeth Schulze is in Washington with the crucial details still missing.
A week after he went to the hospital to get treated for COVID-19, President Trump's health is still in question. Trump admitting to radio show host Rush Limbaugh he wasn't in great shape last week, but now insisting he feels perfect and touting the treatment he received.
We're rounding the turn on the pandemic because I'm telling you, we have a cure. More than just a therapeutic, we have a cure.
The White House physician, Dr. Sean Conley, revealing few details about Trump's condition, but saying the president is clear to resume his public schedule as soon as Saturday. Conley has previously made false statements about Trump's treatment. White House aides are still refusing to answer when the president last tested negative for COVID, a crucial detail for contact tracing.
I can't reveal that at this time. The doctors would like to keep it private.
Before Trump contracted the virus, the White House would disclose his COVID test results. The White House itself remains a COVID hotspot. In an interview with CBS News, Dr. Anthony Fauci calling out the administration's refusal to follow health protocols at the Rose Garden event for Judge Amy Coney Barrett.
We had a super spreader event in the White House, and it was in a situation where people were crowded together and were not wearing masks. So the data speak for themselves.
ABC News has confirmed 2 more members of the White House residence tested positive for COVID nearly 3 weeks ago, bringing the number of residential staff who tested positive at that time to at least 4. Meantime, House Democrats unveiling a bill that would create a panel to determine if a president is fit to lead under the 25th Amendment.
This is not about President Trump. He will face the judgment of the voters. But he shows the need for us to create a process for future presidents.
Sources tell ABC News President Trump will host an in-person event tomorrow at the White House. He's expected to discuss law and order, and he will reportedly address the crowd from the White House balcony. Elizabeth Schulze, ABC News, Washington.
And as we mentioned, next week's debate between the president and former Vice President Joe Biden has officially been canceled. Well, now Biden will participate in a town hall in Philadelphia instead. ABC News will host that event on Thursday, October the 15th. It will be moderated by ABC News chief anchor George Stephanopoulos. You can watch it live right here on ABC 10. Our coverage begins at 5 o'clock. Meanwhile, President Trump now claims he supports the idea of a second stimulus bill, even bigger than what the Democrats are pushing. The White House and Democrats are negotiating again over the package. Democrats were asking for a $2.2 trillion package, while last week the White House offered a $1.6 trillion package, which brought negotiations to a stalemate. But in a radio interview today, President Trump floated the idea of a stimulus package higher than what Democrats propose, but gave no details on how to get there. Now to San Diego's fight against coronavirus. Nearly 285 COVID cases have been associated with San Diego County schools since the beginning of August. Those are the latest numbers from our county, but they only tell part of the story. Our ABC 10 News anchor Lindsay Pena explains why it could be difficult to get specific information about positive cases connected with schools.
Bye, buddy! Yay! Keep heading down.
You good? You say Dad bye? Good job.
Going physically back to school has been a slow and uncertain process, and while a majority in San Diego County are still distance learning, others are back on campus. According to the County Department of Health and Human Services, from August 1st to September 30th, there have been 283 cases associated with K-12 schools. 237 were students, 46 staff. But there is no distinction between those who were distance learning or on campus, simply that they were connected to a school in some way. In other words,
it doesn't necessarily mean that transmission occurred in schools. In fact, there's been very little transmission on school campuses.
Bob Mueller with the San Diego County Office of Education says schools are required by the state to notify the county as well as any staff, students, and families about possible exposure to COVID-19. But schools are not required to inform the general public.
What's prudent is to keep people aware of what's going on. It helps to keep people abreast of what's happening and put down any rumors.
Some districts like Del Mar Union post detailed information on their website about positive cases and which schools they're connected to. But again, that's not required. It's up to the individual district if they want to make that information available to anyone. Lindsay Pena, ABC 10 News.
At this point, the county says there have been no outbreaks of COVID-19 associated with schools. An outbreak is defined as 3 or more cases from different households that all visited the same location within a 2-week period. Well, the NFL season, it could be in jeopardy. Multiple teams are dealing with coronavirus outbreaks. Today, the New York Jets announced that 1 player tested positive. And of course, the Tennessee Titans, they haven't played in nearly 2 weeks after 23 people in their organization tested positive for the virus. The Broncos and Patriots game was rescheduled to Monday after several Patriots tested positive as well. The NFL's chief medical officer says the league is considering pausing the season because of those rising cases. And the San Diego Loyal professional soccer team ended its inaugural season. ABC reporter Elizabeth Paz has the end of their controversy season in the late stages.
A perfect cool day here at Stone Brewery, one of the team's main sponsors, to celebrate the end of their first season, which of course came with a lot of surprises along the way.
Yeah, I'm extremely proud of our team. Our on-the-field goal was to make the playoffs. Now, we didn't achieve that, but more important than that is we want to live to our values every day. And we unequivocally live to the values we want to live to.
2020 has been a roller coaster for San Diego's first year USSF Division II League, the SD Loyals. First having to deal with the repercussions of a global pandemic, postponing their season in March after news of COVID first hit the sports world. Then again in July when one of the players in their match tested positive for the virus. But after each hurdle, this team, determined, showed up on the turf ready to play until the end of the season arrived when another dilemma would show up again.
When I heard that, I lost it.
After not one but 2 separate occasions of racial and homophobic slurs targeted towards one of their players in back-to-back games, head coach Landon Donovan immediately taking a stance, protesting peacefully by forfeiting both games, addressing the issue once again Friday morning.
They are human beings first and their players second. It was important that we stood by our teammate, stood by our brother, and in my case, someone who feels like a son now, and made the decision that was bigger than sports.
Standing by the decision to forfeit those games. Although there are no more goals on the turf this season, there's a new goal for the team, one that focuses on the future.
Yeah, so it's now our responsibility, having made the stand we made, to make sure that we are proactive in being a part of the solution. So what does that mean? That means helping educate, speaking to people, to help them learn why this was so important and why it meant so much to us.
And the players who were allegedly accused of these slurs were suspended by the USL Championship. And some of these games that the Loyals forfeited could have potentially put them in the playoffs. But Donovan said that it's not the games the teams and the players are going to remember, but of course the stance they took for something they believe in. Reporting from Stone Brewery, Vanessa Paz, ABC 10 News.
Well, the city of San Diego is looking to put together an alternative to the normally jam-packed December nights in Balboa Park this year. As you might imagine, the annual tradition is canceled because of the pandemic. Instead, the city will host the Taste of December nights. It will likely happen between December 4th and 6th. The city says it still has a lot of planning to do to make sure it happens and will abide by all county health orders.
Let's start the news feed. Early in the pandemic, there was hope that hydroxychloroquine would help coronavirus patients. More evidence now that proves it does not. Oxford researchers doubling down on a previous study that found it does not help in the fight against COVID. Remdesivir is a coronavirus treatment that has proven to help some patients recover, and the head of the company behind it says they have plenty to go around. The CEO of Gilead Pharmaceuticals says by the end of this month, they will have enough supply for the world. Now, the Supreme Court is allowing women to receive abortion pills during the pandemic through the mail. Trump administration requested rules be put back in place saying that women had to visit a hospital, a clinic, or medical office to receive the pill. Now, there is an increasingly popular way to get money fast. We're talking to a consumer expert about the true cost of cash advance apps.
Seaport Village has not been the same since the pandemic began, but there is a lot happening behind the scenes.